Hey everybody. Today we're going to take a look at how we can model a realistic looking flag. Now, you may think that flags aren't common, but once you start modeling, it doesn't matter if you're working on a large exterior scene or interior scenes. Flags do tend to show up in your scenes, whether they're small flags which you can put on your desk, or large flags that you can most commonly put in front of your building. So let's see how we can model a flag like this. So before we start modeling anything, I want to show you a few different kinds of flags, like the types that you can probably find if you start modeling flags. The first one would be the waving flag, which is more or less this pole over here, and the flag is right on top of the pole. So that's the first type. The second type would be something like this. You have the flag, and then you have another line which extends the flag to the top, and that's usually where the flag is attached to. And the third one, or the third type, would be something like this, a smaller version, whereas the flag is it's going around the pole. So we're gonna go ahead and see how we can model these different types of flags. All right, so I'm gonna close them up. Okay, so in my scene so far, I have a simple cylinder, nothing too fancy. I have a top for it, basically just a line with a late modifier on top of it, and I have a base, a simple plane with a shell on it. So nothing too complicated. All right, so the first thing I want to do is I'm gonna go ahead and in the create panel, I want to make my flag. But before we start creating anything, I want to explain what kind of a flag I'm going to start doing first. And I'm going to start with this flag. So the one that has this part going around it. So it's going to go around our pole. So what I want to do here is I'm going to make a plane. And I'm going to make it 2:1 ratio. So 50 by 100, and I'm gonna put it aside. All right, so let me just delete this. As you might notice, I actually tried this before I started, so I still have some things on. Control backspace. All right, so I have the cylinder. So now what I want to do is I want to make the part that is going to wrap around the pole. So what I'm going to do is from here, I'm going to go over and choose Swift Loop. That is going to allow me to put wherever I want to have an extra loop. So I'm going to make sure that I have roughly around the same line as the flag. One loop over there, and scroll downwards, choose another loop at the bottom. Awesome. Once we have that, we can close up our panel over here. And now what I want to do is I'm going to select the inner polygons. So the polygons that are going around the flagpole. From here, I'm going to go and click the settings next to detach. I'm going to detach it as a clone and base flag. All right, awesome. All right, now let's select that base flag. As you can see, we have those extracted polygons. They just need some width. So I'm going to put a shell on top of it. A very small amount, like 0.1, maybe 0.2. That is going to give us the thickness of the middle part. All right. I'm going to press Alt-Q so I can isolate this. Actually, before I isolate it, I'm going to hold on Control and select my flag and isolate both of these. The reason for this is so I can extend that middle part over here. And the way to do it is apply an edit poly modifier on top of it. Click here and simply extrude one or let's say 0.1, no, 0.2. Yeah, they should work. Awesome. All right, so now I'm gonna go and see it from the top. I'm going to rotate it just a tiny bit so it gets in line with like this. Okay, so now what I want to do is I'm just gonna move it just a tiny bit more to the front like this, and with the scale I'm gonna put it on the Y just so it gets thinner like this. Awesome. All right, now I can either choose to go with a Turbosmooth or simply discard a Turbosmooth, as it's a very small detail, it will not be seen. All right, so we have that base flag. So I'm going to select my flag, or the plane that I chose to be the flag, and I'm going to move it just a bit so it overlaps with that part that we extruded from the flagpole. So if you take a look at here, you can see that the flag is basically going inside that thing. All right, now we have the base. So what we want to do next is we want to make sure that we're going to have enough of geometry, because after we're finished with this, we're going to add an geometry modifier or cloth modifier. In order for that modifier to be able to work properly, it's going to have enough of geometry to work with. So I'm going to go ahead and try something like 40 segments by 80 segments. There you go. So unless you're working with a very, very old computer, you shouldn't have any problems when the simulations start running. All right, and isolate, and this is what I have so far. It's starting to look like something, but still it's a far-fetched from being a realistic flag. All right, so like we said, from the modifier list, I'm gonna go down and choose the cloth modifier. So once we open this modifier, if this is the first time you're using it, you're gonna see a bunch of options. For now, just try to follow along and see which options I choose. So I'm gonna go over on the front viewport, and I'm gonna press the plus button underneath the cloth, and it's going to allow me to choose group. What group does, it's going to allow me to select a particular selection of vertices and give them option to be attached to something or do something else. So in this case, I want to take all of these vertices, or the ones that are in the beginning, select them all, and click on Make Group. You don't have to name it, just click OK. For the purpose of this video, I don't have to name it. Now, I have this group 001, and in the brackets it says unassigned. So I haven't done anything but select these vertices. If I want these vertices now to be attached to my base, I have to go ahead and with this selection, click on Node. So once I click on Node, you're going to see it's blue. Now it's allowing me to select what I want to node it with. So I'm going to click on here. Once I click it, it's gonna say node to base flag. All right. Click on the cloth, and we're back to the options we saw previously. Okay. So now let's see what else we have to change. So I'm going to click on Object Properties over here, and in here you're going to see just a bunch of options. It's a good thing to know that you don't have to know all of these options, because you have presets that can help us with this. So I'm going to click on, first of all, I'm going to click on Add Objects, because as it is right now, I only have the flag and the base in the simulation. I want to add the pole just in case when the flag drops down, it can collide with it. So I'm going to press on Add Objects, and from here I'm going to select my line, or actually I'm going to select my cylinder, which is the cylinder, and I'm going to click OK. The reason for this is sometimes when you add those options, if you start assigning what they need to do, they kind of bug out. So once I've selected the cylinder here, so I've added it in the simulation, I'm going to click on the cylinder and just click on this collision object option over here. And then scroll down to your plane 002, this is the flag, and click on cloth. Now I can choose a preset for this cloth, and I can make it, let's make it a silk, and click OK. So basically what I've done here is I've made sure that this flag, as soon as the simulation starts, it's gonna try to behave like an actual silk flag would behave. So let's see if that's gonna be the case in our model. So in order to see this simulation play out, I can click on simulate local or simulate local dampened. So I'm going to try with simulate local and see what happens. And sometimes when you're working with the cloth modifier, something like this can happen. So I'm going to go and click on reset state. So I'm going to click on simulate local until it's falling down, till about here, and stop it. Now I'm going to click on simulate local dampened. This should help with that issue. It's going to be slower, but the simulation isn't really going to be so abrupt, and it probably won't bug out like that. It's a known problem with the cloth simulation in Max, so I really don't know any way around it. I usually, if I'm going to be doing some complex cloth simulation, I would probably jump over to Marvelous Designer. But for this video, we can leave it up like this. All right, let's stop it, simulate local, dampen again. All right, so if I notice it here, I'm gonna see that I have a small issue, whereas the base has been just a tiny bit moved a bit to the side, but that's not a big issue because I can just move it with the move on the X, and there we go. Now we no longer have that gap. So the first flag that we have is this one. This is something you would probably see inside a room. A flag which is just folded downwards, and it's pretty much, well, boring looking like. All right, so let's see another version of this flag, whereas it's going to be attached to an actual line. So I'm gonna go here, hold down Shift, or better yet, let's go like this, manage layers, type 1, 01, add everything to it, and then I'm going to Control V, and I'm going to make a copy of it all. All right, and call this type 02. Hide the type 1, and there we go. We have the same exact setting without anything else. So what I'm going to do is just move this aside. I'm going to delete the cloth modifier for now, and I'm going to delete the base for the flag. All right, so now I just need to add one simple line, and that line is going to help define where that flag is gonna be attached to. All right, select this, right click and make it a smooth, right click corner. Well, actually it is a corner, so just move it downwards a bit. Awesome. Yeah, this should work. Okay, now I just want to give it some thickness. Let's try with 0.5. Yeah, this is gonna work. interpolation can go down to 12, so it's going to be a smoother transition. And put an edit poly on top of it, so it's actually a geometry. Now the only thing we have to do is make sure that this flag is on top of our line that we just made, and we can do this with a FFD modifier, FFD box, and let's see, we're just moving it like this. There we go. So now we're gonna go ahead and just do exactly the same thing that we did previously. Just I'm going to collapse this a little poly and drop down a cloth modifier and then choose my group. Now I'm going to go over and select all of the vertices that are on top of that line that we have here. And again, make group and node those to the line. Awesome. All right, back to the cloth. Object properties, add the cylinder to it. Click on add, click on OK. Back to object properties. For the cylinder as a collision object and the plane as a silk cloth modifier. All right, so again, moment of truth, simulate local, stop it, simulate dampened, just let it slide down. All right, let's see. Let's see, the problem with this is that sometimes it's going to overlap itself if you leave it up. So it's not a big of an issue. You just have to make sure that when you're simulating, you sometimes, if you have problems like this, just simply go with simulate local dampened. So I'm going to reset state again, simulate local. All right. In this case, I guess we have to add this as the line 03 as a collision object as well, but it's not showing it here, so doesn't matter. All right, so this is the first type. I'm gonna go ahead and again make one more layer. Call this type 03 and hide the second. Well, actually no, hide this, unhide this, and because we just made the layer 3 as we had that one selected, that's why it was automatically added to the third layer. So now I want to take this flag that we have here, I'm going to copy it one more time. So I'm going to copy it, add it here, and hide it. All right, so in this case, instead of having a flag just falling downwards, I want to take this flag and make it weave as if it had wind on top of it. So let's go ahead and see how we can do this. Again, cloth modifier, and I have to repeat the same thing because once I copied it, it kind of lost everything. So again, select all of the vertices, make group, node to the base, back to the cloth. By just seeing me do this a couple of times. All right, let's see. All right, cylinder number 3. There we go. Add this, click OK. I don't want to skip out on anything because I would like to have whatever I do or whatever errors come up, I want to show you guys how you can fix them. So That's why at some point of the video, things might seem a bit repetitive, but hey, you're learning something, hopefully. All right, so the cylinder is a collision object, the plane as another silk, and click OK. Again, let's test it out, make sure everything is fine before we continue. So again, simulate local. You can see it's falling down naturally. We don't have any more of that problem we had previously. So reset state. All right, so we have a falling flag. How do we make it weave? That's actually quite easy. All you have to do is go over to create and skip over to space warps. From here, you just want to select the wind modifier or the wind force modifier. The way this one works is quite simple. You just click and drag, and visually you can see right away we have a plane with an arrow. You just, now I'm going to go ahead and rotate a bit, about 180 degrees, but I don't want to have this generator for the wind going straight from the pole to the flag. I want to have it at a slight angle, so I'm going to give it like 20 degrees angle. All right, so we have this wind generator and we have this flag. So how do we make the flag actually count what this wind generator is doing? That's actually easy as well. All you have to do is underneath object properties, you have cloth forces. Click on this cloth force and it's going to give you an option where it says forces in scene, and you have forces in simulation on the right side. You select the forces in wind over here, forces in scene, and click this button. It's gonna put it on this side. That means this wind is now going to be not encountered, but taken into account when the simulation is done. So what we have to do here is simply now just click on simulate local. All right, no problems here. I'm going to leave it up like this. And now, once I select my wind generator, I can see here that I have a place where it says strength. So by default, it's set up as 1. If I put it up at 10, just see what is going to happen with the flag. Right away, I can see the flag is starting to move, but it kind of looks like it's a bit, there we go, slowly it's starting to weave a bit, but it kind of looks like it's a very heavy flag. So in case we don't want it to look like this, in case we want to have a more lighter look to it, we can change this by changing the gravity parameter in the simulation parameters. So by default, by this minus 980, I can decrease this to minus 480. And this is going to make the cloth simulation think that this cloth is a bit lighter. So if you take a look at here, now it's starting to weave. You can actually use this even as an animation if you would like. Because if you take a look, you're going to notice that this is a seamless animation. So you can make simulation of 0 to 100 frames and loop it. But in our case, I'm just going to wait for it to get to a position that I like, and I'm going to stop the the simulation. And not this one. I'll just give it to a more interesting look. Maybe something like this. Well, not so much, I guess. Okay, so if I change our wind a bit, again, it's gonna give it a different look. It kind of really depends on the look you want to achieve. So with this, we can have a nice looking weaving flag. So with this, we have two different kinds of variations of the same flag. All right, so let's go ahead. I'm going to move this to the side so we can see them both. Unhide the first one, and here we go. We have a standing flag and a weaving flag. So I hope you guys liked this video, and also you managed to learn something extra about the cloth modifier. So if you would like me to make more, then like it, subscribe, comment, and share it around so we can reach more people. And if you would like to see some more of this video, check out the second part where I'm gonna go over to how to make the textures for the flag and how to give it that extra look of an old worn out flag. So until the next video, see you around.